Coming up on Veterans Matters, we take a look back at parts 4 and 5 of a day in the life of a student vet. That's coming up next on Veterans Matters.
I was born in Decatur. I grew up in Florida. I moved to Florida when I was probably 11 years old. Lived there for 7.5 years. After high school, I came back here, moved back to Mount Zion with my brother, and was there I'd say about a year and a half, 2007, and then I enlisted in the Marines and went to boot camp August of 2007, or I'm sorry, May of 2007, graduated in August and did 4 years in the Marine Corps. Got out last January and started going to Eastern Illinois University as a freshman. So I just kind of moving around a lot, I guess. I want to pursue a career in federal law enforcement, and so I'm getting a bachelor's degree in sociology, minoring in criminology and health studies, and I plan on applying to every federal law enforcement agency out there, ATF, FBI, U.S. Marshals. My time in the Marine Corps, like I said, I did 4 years in the Marine Corps. I got out as a corporal. I went to boot camp in San Diego, California. Did my MCT on Camp Pendleton. Then I got moved to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where I spent the remainder of my term. I was deployed in Iraq from August of 2008 to March of 2009, where I was my career in my specialty in the Marine Corps, I should say, was I was a landing support specialist. I was in a logistical field. So when I was in Iraq, I did a lot of I ran a flight line. My platoon, we had about 30 Marines in my platoon. We were separated into two groups and two shifts, the passenger terminal and the flight line. I was on the flight line, so I was in charge of, I made liaison with all the pilots as they were flying in, and I had to get a rundown of all of the equipment and all the personnel coming off of it, as well as of all that was going on. So I had to keep track of everything that was coming in and out of that flight line. So in the 7-month period, my platoon alone, we probably oversaw the movement of over 60,000 personnel and 26.5 short tons of cargo. It was stressful at times just because I worked 12-hour shifts. I worked from 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. 7 days a week. I didn't get any days off. And a lot of the times, since I was in the night shift, if our company or our battalion had something going on, it would be during the day. So on those days, I would only get 2 hours of sleep, and my day would start from 08 till up until I had to go on shift. So there were a lot of nights that I'm pulling 36, 37-hour shifts. There have been times where I did 48-hour shifts and just go straight into work. So kind of my days meshed together, and you lose track of time. So the 7 months that I was there went by fast for me. So it was really wasn't as stressful as you would think it was, because I wasn't exposed to a lot of combat, but I did have a very high workload and a very like a fast-paced work environment. There was a lot of downtime, but at the same time, I was busy doing a lot of other things. I was promoted to corporal while I was in Iraq in under 2 years. So that style of leadership that I learned, in Iraq was a lot different than the way it is back in the States in garrison. So whenever I got back, it was the remaining time that I was there in the Marine Corps, I spent stateside. I did, a month and a half in Haiti for Operation Unified Response for the earthquake relief effort over there. So that and Iraq were probably the two, monumental, most memorable things that I did my time in the Marine Corps. And that month and a half or so that I was over in Haiti was a lot different than it was in Iraq. It was a lot more stressful, required a lot more on my half because I wasn't over there doing my occupation in the logistical field. I was attached to the military police, so I was kind of out of my element in that, in terms of I was doing security details. So instead of having, an 8-hour workday, I was working 4 hours on, 4 hours off. If I wasn't doing convoys for that day, I was standing security post 4-hour shifts. So I would be on shift for 4 hours. I'd be off for 4 hours, and I'd be back on a different post for another 4 hours, and that was continuous. So I rarely got, adequate sleep. I was lucky if I got, a full 4 hours of sleep that day. And the difference between that deployment in Haiti as it was in Iraq was I knew how long I was going to be in Iraq. That's a that's a 6 to 7 month deployment, or for other people when they're doing their year-long deployments, you at least know how long you're going to be there. But when I volunteered to go to Haiti, it was last minute. I was home on leave and got the phone call saying that I was going to deploy. So it was literally last minute. I came back off leave, and the day I got back, I left for Haiti. So that phone call to my family was literally on the way to the airport, getting ready to fly out. And there were a lot of people that never even knew I left. And what made that deployment so rough was the fact that I didn't know how long I was going to be there. Whereas in Iraq they said that 7 months, you could pretty much count, from the day that you get there, how much time you have left. Whereas in Haiti it was anywhere from 14 days to 180 days. So you could have left that day, you could have been there for 2 weeks, or we could have been there for 6 months. So every day literally was like it could have been the last day. So you're doing your 4-hour shifts, and your days are just kind of molding together. And there were a lot of times I didn't even know what day it was. I didn't know, the day of the month, the day of the week. Had no contact with my family back home. I didn't have a phone. There was no way for me to make phone calls home. We had 4 satellites between 400 Marines on the compound, and it was almost impossible to make a phone call home. There are a lot of things that have changed my life since being in the Marine Corps. In particular, going to school, I had absolutely no intention of going to college whenever I went into the Marine Corps. I went into the Marine Corps with the intention of just getting that experience and putting it on my resume, so that whenever I got out, I could go and just work anywhere that I wanted to. I could apply to the police department, and they're going to hire me just because I was in the Marines. That was kind of the attitude that I had. But after being in the Marine Corps, I learned that there's a lot of other things that I could be doing, and it gave me that drive to go to college, because now there's so much more. I don't want to just be a cop. Like I want to do so much more with it. I want to go into the FBI, and I want to actually do things on a much bigger scale. And in order to do that, I need a degree. So coming to college, I'm not coming to college with the intention of partying and doing all the things that most of the typical college students would do. My focus is primarily on just getting my degree, doing what I have to do, making the good grades, so that when it's all said and done, I have the tools that I need. You know, I have the 4 years military on my resume. I have, you know, that degree, and I have that sense of responsibility. I have that drive and that motivation and that discipline, and it's really like, it's been a driving force for me. I got elected as the vice president alongside the president, Dwayne, and the secretary Tommy and the treasurer John, and now it's kind of going from one position of leadership in the military to a position of leadership inside this organization, and we're trying to really, like, we're trying to keep that sense of brotherhood alive, and we're trying to reach out to the other veterans on campus to let them know that there is a group here that is geared towards helping them, and it's not, you know, we're not trying to be a fraternity or anything else. We're just trying to keep that sense of brotherhood alive, and to be able to put you in a room with other guys that you can relate to and that you can understand as well, and vice versa. You know, they can understand you, and just be there for each other. And that's kind of the feeling that I get with them now, is that at any point in time, you know, I can call one of those guys up and I can talk to them. You know, Dwayne just lives, you know, a few doors down from me. Most of everyone else is within a mile or two, so we're a tight-knit group, and we have pretty much become a family, because being in college, you're away from your family, so you need that outlet. There really isn't any one person that doesn't like anyone else. We're all pretty much friends. We all have an understanding, and we're all very diverse, you know, from the youngest member being 19 years old to the oldest member being in his 40s. One's almost, I think, is in his 50s. You know, so there's a huge diversity in terms of age. But me being 24, being in the Marines, and one of the other guys being almost 40, being in the Marines, it doesn't matter how old we are, we have something to talk about, you know, and we understand each other. And, you know, same thing with, you know, someone who's 19 who's going into the military as a member of ROTC. He's around veterans who have been there and done that. We've lived that lifestyle, so it gives them an opportunity to kind of pick our brains and understand, like, what they're getting themselves into, as well as to help them become better leaders, so that whenever they're in the military, they already have an idea of what they're getting themselves into. So, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities being in the organization.
They should be dried out first, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave this over like this. Have a nice day. They don't like. I can do that.
Yeah, because you don't want it to take for. Where is it? Here. Where is it? I like it better keep it going up in the fall.
There we go. Look at that.
You should keep everybody on this side, do you think?
Okay.
So that I don't want to mess up. Then. I'd be ready. Alright. Okay.
No, I know. Don't worry. How much is that?
This is 4.
Are you sure? I'm joking.
That's
Dump your
4.
water.
And that's what I was telling Ann last night. I was just like,
Alright, 6 and a half.
And it was before. And like any club. Here.
but it'll stay warm.
This is why we
For
need
sure,
her.
I like you.
And
It'll
put the
still
sausage right on there.
that way it'll stay warm.
And I'm just
It's always been there.
Kind of busy.
Where did you serve?
101st Airborne Division, Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Okay. And how long were you deployed?
I was deployed between Kosovo and Iraq. I was deployed over 2 years. I had some stresses between Scud missile attacks, mortar attacks, bullets bouncing off the walls, Humvees and everything else. I'd say my most enjoyable experience was being able to be at the first mass grave site that was uncovered in Iraq, because I think it gave myself more of a sense of why we were there. Because during that time, the issue of weapons of mass destruction came up, and we weren't finding anything over there. But once we found that first mass grave site, it brought a lot of closure to the Kurdish people, which is in northern part of Iraq. And my best experience was being able to work for directly under General Petraeus. I was his combat communicator. No, I'm not a student here. I'm a member of the Black Knights.
And why did you choose to become a member of the Black Knights?
I wanted to find... I'm a member of the VFW, the Legion, different veterans organizations, but I wasn't really feeling my age group and people that I could relate to from the Iraq War. And I heard by word of mouth about the Black Knights, so I decided to do some research on them. And found a lot of old news articles. Come to find out they were, back in the day they were hellions, and they had a good time, but they caused a lot of problems. But then the new Knights were brought back in 2006, and I read from then on up, and come to find out that I, decided this was an organization I'd like to be part of. The camaraderie, being around guys who are like-minded, it makes things a lot easier. I can talk to these guys and they know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't have to really explain myself to them. And everybody kind of understands each other just a little bit. So.
I was served for 9 years. The first 4 years were in Louisiana, stationed at Barksdale Air Force Base. And then the last 5 years were in England at RAF Lakenheath. And I served Iraq twice in 2003 and 2008.
Is joining the military, was that something that you wanted to do? How did you come about wanting to serve some time?
It was actually. I wanted to join right out of high school. And then my parents kind of persuaded me not to and to pursue school for a while. So I went to Lakeland for a couple of years, and then I inevitably went into the Air Force. I wanted to travel and see more than Charleston. So, well, I was an air traffic controller, and so usually when I go to Champaign, I do actually a lot because of the airport there, and I miss the controlling of the aircraft at times.
Why do you have interest in becoming a member of the Black Knights?
There's just something that's relatable between all of us, something that we kind of have in common, an underlying factor, and so that's kind of nice.
Is serving, is that something that you would, are you done with it? Do you miss it?
I am done with it. There are factors that I miss, and then there are factors that I don't miss as well. So, but I don't look back upon it negatively. It was an experience, good and bad. They made me who I am today.
And what are you guys doing here today? You're at the VFW here in Charleston?
Yes, we're at the VFW here in Charleston for a all-you-can-eat pancake breakfast, and we're raising funds for 7 of the members to go to the 23rd Annual Baton Memorial March.
make it work harder.
It's good for you.
Branch military service.
I was in the United States Marine Corps.
Tell me about your time. How long were you deployed, and where did you serve?
Oh, okay. Well, I went in 1986 on the delayed entry program, which was you could sign up junior in high school and go in. And I left 10 days after I graduated high school. And thank goodness it was peacetime back then. And went to because we were close to St. Louis. I grew up in Southern Illinois. Went to boot camp in San Diego. Went to school for basic cartography, which is map making, over in D.C. So that was kind of cool to be in D.C. that young. And then I was in California 3 years. Did a couple operations there, one in 29 Palms, which is one of the worst places on earth. And then I spent a year overseas, and I was with the Marine Corps wing in Iwakuni, Japan. So I was on mainland Japan instead of Okinawa, although we went to Okinawa, Guam, and the Isle of Tinian. I'm in graduate school right now, and I kind of wanted to go for dietetics, but then took chemistry, so that was the end of that. And that was a little bit harder than I expected. But fortunately, I had a Dr. Frank in research methods, which was a required course for that program, and she also was in charge of the gerontology program, the head of that. And I am interested in that aspect of retirement, and really hope to do something on retirement with veterans where, you know, they retire after 20 to 30 years in the service, and it's like, well, you go from one structured environment to, you know, civilian life, and is there a problem with that? I don't know. So doing the research now, slowly, and building up data, trying to find out if that's something worthwhile to look into. When I went, you know, to EIU, 19 years ago, as an undergrad, I was in history. Before I came to EIU, I was at a community college, Kaskaskia College, and they had a program, a Veterans Upward Bound program, which there's not that many of those left, but they had a program where basically it was quite a few veterans that worked there, but they had tutors, and it was for folks that, you know, were first generation college, but it was for veterans. But, you know, a lot of veterans don't, you know, are the first people to go to college in their families. Well, at least back then. I don't know how it is now. I came from a town of 200 people in Southern Illinois, and I was to St. Louis by the time I was 18, and that was it. That was my travels. And, you know, so I went from that to, you know, getting on a plane and all excited because I was going to San Diego, California, and then in the same breath realizing I'm going into boot camp, you know, and it kind of worried me. But I did get to meet a lot of folks from around the country, and you know, it was just people that, you know, you're not going to know much about Grassy, Missouri, but, you know, if you're, you know, bunkmates with the guy that's going to tell you every detail about the town, or, you know, I had another buddy from Victoria, Texas, and just, you know, and then some of the East Coast Marines, just hearing things about the boroughs in New York. And so you got that experience that I guess if you went to a major four-year college that had students from all over the country, you would get the same effect. But, you know, this was more of the C students that I got to talk with. So it was kind of, you know, it was neat in that way. And I lost, I went from like a 42-inch waist to like a 32-inch waist in 3 months. So it was a big experience physically for me. And I don't know, it just felt like I kind of grew up then, you know. But I still didn't really know what I wanted to do with you know, life in general. I just kind of was, you know, just doing the Marine Corps thing. And, you know, as far as my experiences, I went up to a group headquarters. So I was up there with all the brass, with all the, and I think there was one general, but then almost everybody else was a colonel. And then a lot of them were upper ranking enlisted. So, you know, I was like the low man on the totem pole by a big degree. And that's a unique experience because most times, you know, in the Marine Corps especially, you know, you go and you're with your platoon or whatever, and, you know, you're with other people your rank. And here I was with a handful of enlisted people my rank, and then the majority being, you know, officers. So it made me nervous. I met Mike Rubel, and I used up my GI Bill, and that was a big help too. I would have probably not went to college, but Illinois Veterans Grant and GI Bill, you know, it'd be silly not to go, and I wasn't really. So anyhow, to answer your question though, I met Mike and was talking with him, and I think he basically started working here the semester I came here full time, and I don't know. You know, I just kind of thought there wasn't this kind of an organization that I knew of when I went here 18 years ago, and I thought, well, it'd be kind of good to give something back and, you know, be a part of it, you know, and try to help out. And things like this are pretty, you know, it's good to be a part of something like this, I think, to be part of the community.
Often you reflect on when you did serve.
It was funny, when I turned 38, I was shaving one morning, and I realized that it's like, wow, you know, and at that time I kind of went through a health phase in my life and started working out and, you know, doing a lot of cardio and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, was a lot more mature, but it did dawn on me that it's like, you know, I could have been done with my 20, you know, and I felt still pretty young, you know, but when you're 18, I just thought, man, it'd be forever in the service, you know, if you had to stay here 20 years, and, you know, I don't know, I think back to a lot of the guys and gals I knew when I was in, and just, you know, I wonder where they're at. I kind of wish Facebook existed back then, because I lost touch with some of them, and I've kind of reconnected with a few. But, you know, I was always with either the 3 years in California, I was with office people, so I tried finding my old boss and couldn't find him, and he would have been quite a bit up there in age. But my last year, I was with a wing with an engineer detachment, and I've always, even at the offices, was in an engineer office. You know, it was cool. I mean, I always liked that feeling, like when we'd go on, do our little war games or whatever, and we had to set up a perimeter, and it would just be like, wow, we're like it, you know. I mean, we're like the line of defense, and you know, like I say, thank goodness it was peacetime. But you know, it did give you that feeling that. You know, this can be done. I mean, you kind of understood that it's like, well, you follow your training and you do what you're supposed to do, and like I say, thank God it was all peacetime, and you know, but I had I guess a self-confidence that, you know, you just sometimes have to do what you got to do, and it'll work out.